Hi, this is Mrs. Duncan, and I'm going to take a few minutes to talk about our last category of literary analysis, which is the analysis of symbols. We've been introduced to symbols before, because in our very first story, Snow, and then in our story that we really studied together, Everyday Use, a symbol was a very key idea. The snow itself was a symbol, and Sister Zoe mentioned how it represented the idea that, like individuals, everyone was unique and irreplaceable. In everyday use, the quilt, we all recognize the conflict there and the conflict of ideas. And so the quilt itself was a real literal blanket, a thing, but it symbolized so much more. And the heritage that they shared, and then also the struggle over it represented the differing ideas they had about how to honor or preserve that heritage. And so we have a lot of types of symbols, and some are more evident than others, but they're key in fiction stories. And they may not be as obvious or as heavy-handed, but they're typically there, and sometimes they're small, but they're the main thing, like in those early stories. Paul's rocking horse, is a kind of a key thing because it's not a literal horse, and it is a literal rocking horse toy, but it had these magical powers, and so it represented something beyond just being a toy. We'll see that when we start our play study, which the play is called A Dollhouse, and it'll be a little confusing because you don't actually have a literal dollhouse in there, but we'll find out what house it is and who is the doll and why it would be called that. So when we are looking for a meaning, symbols are very key to that meaning, and if we miss some of the things, the clues that the author has left, we can miss a lot of the richness and depth of the story and its meaning. And literature is art because it has those layers of meaning, and the better the story, in a sense, the more layers of meaning that it has and the more things it can mean to people. So here I just want to introduce some of the common symbols and a little definition, and we have a couple of PDFs to help you with that. And you'll see that some symbols are contained with our, there it is, sorry. Are cultural. And so in the Western tradition, that's origin is very much tied to Christianity, at least from the Roman Catholic Church time on. These are just part of our cultural heritage, even if you're not a Christian. And so, but the more you know the Bible, the more you recognize these. But you take some of these that are seasonal, and you will find these in Christian and non-Christian cultures, like Native Americans. And these are very important. And you can see that we have our own feelings that are attached to some of these symbols. Color symbolism is something that goes way back as well, and they can vary, so you have to kind of look at the story and see which does that match up with. And these are not exhaustive. Like blue can also mean integrity and truth, and there are more, but these are some of the common ones. And then you come down, scroll down this time. Are the books, chains, clocks, crowns that are just part of that. So if you go down and look at the different PDFs, you're going to see more lists, and you should look through those and get a familiarity. It's not that you need to memorize them. You just need to have a sense and an awareness, and you use this sort of like a little code book when you read literature stories, okay? So that when you see something in there, you go, oh, is that on the list, and does that have that meaning? And it's a more abstract meaning, obviously, like down here, hearth and fire. Obviously, we literally go up to it to get warmer, but the kind of warmth or domesticity near the home is more emotional and more of a feeling of home than it is just the literal, I'm cold and I'm gonna get warmer by getting closer to the fire. Because fiction stories are a construct of the author, and they've chosen everything very carefully. They've crafted it very carefully. And so while they have realistic work, science fiction, types of things, they're going to borrow these meanings using symbols that you're familiar with. All right, so I wanted to scroll down. I'm going to have to let you scroll down. It's not letting you do that today in this format. I'm going to pause and see if I can get to another PDF. And